It's Friday night, which means it's time for another episode of the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast. I'm Ashli.
And I'm Casey. Last time we finally got to that Rocko's Modern Life episode we've been meaning to for a while, called Fortune Cookie. Had a great time talking about our good buddy, Filbert. We also put out our weekly Twitter poll asking which character is more unlucky, Filbert from Rocko's Modern Life or Eugene from Hey Arnold. You guys decided Eugene from Hey Arnold with 79% of the vote, which makes sense.
This week, we are talking about Jimmy Neutron for the first time in a good while. It's also a Valentine's Day themed episode, as Valentine's Day is, right in the middle of this week. So we figured, why not, get in the nice, loving mood and discuss an episode centered around everyone's favorite holiday, right?
Yeah, a non-controversial or hot take-oriented holiday at all. Follow us on Twitter at FNN_podcast and Facebook, facebook.com/FNN podcast. Review us on iTunes so others can find the show, and keep checking us out on YouTube, guys. We've been getting more subscribers. It's fun to see, and I never really thought about the fact that, you can't really listen to us if you have an Android, can you? Without YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I guess as somebody on Android. Yeah. Shows just Hilarious. How much I listen to the show, you guys.
Hilarious. But now we are on YouTube, so you can.
And on that note, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in, unlike me. Now let's get started.
From the Nicktoon Animation Studio in Hollywood.
Alright guys, this episode is, as we said, from Jimmy Neutron. It's called Love Potion 976J. It's Season 2, Episode 8, and it originally aired on February 13th, 2004, so the day before Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's still pretty close to the holiday there, so, props to them. In this one, a laboratory mishap causes Jimmy, Carl, and Sheen to fall madly in love with the next girls they see, and, some predictable consequences for that. One interesting consequence on that one. But
yes, to say the least. Oh man.
Yeah, I was kind of excited to get back to this. It's been a while since we've done Jimmy Neutron. It's by no means my absolute favorite Nicktoon, but it has some great moments, and this was a fun episode to come back to.
Yeah, and this is only our second time covering it since it shocked everyone and made it to the finals of Nick Madness last year. So I think we're finally over it and getting back into our usual routine.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride with it, but since then, that's a long time.
Yeah.
For us to not cover the show for.
Almost a year.
So.
But for my first kind of takeaway from this episode, I don't know why I hadn't realized it earlier, but the animation of the show just didn't age well. It's so specific to the time it was made.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think it's partially just, it's, and let me think on this, is it accurate? It's the only 3D animated show we talk about frequently. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess
and
it is.
I think it's partially that 2D animation hasn't gotten... we watch the older episodes of SpongeBob and the newer ones look a lot better, but it hasn't advanced quite to the extent that 3D animation has, right. I think. So it definitely ages worse. And, you see this in a lot of things too, right? This is somewhat on topic. I think that Wind Waker has aged far better than Ocarina of Time as far as original animation goes, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's a completely different style, even though they weren't made... they were made a decent amount apart, but, not enough apart to make up for the difference in sort of retention of quality.
I feel the same way, yeah. Look, imagine I just pictured All Grown Up if it had been a 3D animated show.
No.
Isn't that horrifying to picture how, lanky and awful they would all look?
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah, it's... So, and I think at the time, I definitely don't remember it looking bad. I think it was on par with 3D animation of its time, Jimmy Neutron, right? as a kid, I don't remember ever looking at it and being like, oh god, this looks bad. But yeah, it does age a little poorly.
Yes.
But the humor, I think, is still pretty solid.
It holds up.
There's some good stuff. And yeah, I mean, basically, we're in the classroom. They're all making Valentines, and I don't even remember their names, but there's two redheads who I guess are dating. They're together, and the girl is, like, getting up on her boyfriend, being like, add more macaroni to signify your love for me or devotion for me or something like that. Something ridiculous. Which, the idea, like, I'm not sure how old they are, but I think it's clear that they're too old to be making, like, macaroni art for one another.
That's true, but also Miss Fowl would be that outdated with, like, trends.
True.
Gotta love Miss Fowl. Yeah, so this is a really cute episode, and at first, I remembered the episode, but I half remembered it, because at first I thought Jimmy genuinely tries to make a love potion, but in reality he's developing an anti-love vaccine, and we all know how vaccines work. You have to inject a little bit of the so-called disease, here being love, in order to make your body immune to it. And basically a vial breaks and goes through the air duct, and Jimmy, Carl, and Sheen all breathe in this love, what was going to be a love vaccine, and it causes all three of them to fall in love with the first girl they see, which I'm sure is not how that would work at all, but whatever.
No, but, you know, I appreciate there's at least a dash of some kind of sense in there, and
yeah, and it's very creative.
I think it's a fun play, but he doesn't actually make the love potion, because I think love potions happen pretty frequently, right? I think it's kind of fun
and have all sorts of weird, like, issues, especially in Harry Potter, like, the sort of consent issues that happen there.
But I think it's kind of cool that, I mean, like, the idea of a love vaccine, I think, is much less touched on, you know? It's kind of a funny concept of Jimmy being so concerned that he might one day fall in love that he's like, we need to prevent this. It's also a very, very typical young male response.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Like, I'm never gonna fall in love. I remember being terrified of turning 13 when I was little because of Codename Kids Next Door, and thinking, like, I can't turn 13 and become a teenager. I can't abandon, like, my sort of kid roots. Like, these are my people. I can't leave them. So yeah, I totally identify here with Jimmy's sort of pushback against hormones and feelings and all of that.
Yeah, it's an understandable concern of sorts, but yeah, you know, obviously it ends up turning against him in this case, and I think it's, you know, like I said, it's a fun play. It gives you the same general outcome of, like, oh, now he's gonna fall in love with somebody, so on and so forth, but it was a fun take.
And always love any opportunity to see stupid Jimmy.
Yes.
That's always great.
Honestly, yes.
Like, he sees Cindy and falls in love with her because of the potion and all that, and he goes, "Me see you soon, day."
Me see you soon, day? Like,
yeah, Cindy's like, what?
I also like this fun play of, because, you know, he's falling in love with Cindy, his quote-unquote rival, and this sort of constant back and forth that he has, where he's, like, when he's around her, he's like, oh, man, I love her so much, and then he's like, she leaves, and then he's like, why do I want to date her? Why is this happening? And, like, this internal struggle he's kind of going through.
Yeah. Yeah, and he, like, is so happy that he loves her, but he's so mad about it, too. It's very Helga Pataki.
Yes, absolutely. And, I mean, there's definitely some parallels there. Except for that Jimmy is nowhere near as nice as... Or neither of them are anywhere near as nice as Arnold, I suppose.
True. And I don't know, Jimmy is showing traits of Helga in this episode. So is Cindy. I'd never thought about the character comparison at all, but let's talk about Carl. That's the real meat of this episode.
Yeah, well, we'll get back to Sheen in a bit, but Carl falls for Jimmy's mom. Oh, I also need to bring up, when they fall in love with their respective person, they like picture them as like their ideal woman, right? So Jimmy pictures Cindy as like a scientist. Sheen pictures Libby as like an ultra lord female type character. And then Carl pictures Jimmy's mom as a gingerbread woman. It's so good.
It's perfect. Yep. And Hugh is so chill about it too. It's hysterical.
Yeah, like he doesn't even care, and I like how much disdain Carl has for Hugh throughout it. Like, you can't keep us apart, and like
he's
whatever.
mad.
And it's funny because Hugh's
It's
just
like
like,
he
oh,
feels
alrighty.
like Hugh is the side fling. Yeah. Oh man. Can we talk about Jimmy trying to get Cindy out of his head by saying, "Think of prime numbers"?
Yes, because he's kind of having one of those moments where he sees her all over at the place, which is also similar to Helga in the chair or whatever. On the couch.
Helga on the couch.
Yeah, where she sees Arnold's face all over the place, right? It's similar to that, where the clouds start looking like Cindy, everything's reminding him of her and whatnot, and he's, he reaches a point that he just has to ask her out on a Valentine's date, and, a little surprisingly, she says yes, right? Because she's not under this love potion at all. So,
right.
And it's not exactly a secret of the show that there's low-key some feelings going on there, but, it's just a little odd.
It is. It is funny that all three kind of agree to go on, I guess, dates. Judy just thinks it's kind of cute and weird.
Well, yeah, he also crashes
and
Judy and Hugh's
that's true.
picnic. He doesn't actually get an invitation.
She kind of allows it to continue.
A little, yeah.
Right.
It's
but yeah,
kind of uncomfortable.
She's like, sometimes people... It's like a great sort of Shakespearean misunderstanding. She's like, sometimes people need alone time with the people they love. And Carl's like, oh, I hear you. So how can we get rid of it?
Yeah. Oh, it's fun. Yeah, I do want to give, though, Sheen and Libby their fair time, because I just love them.
They're cute.
They're so cute.
They're very cute.
I definitely think Libby in some ways could do better, but I think she's aware of that, and I think she still can't help but have feelings for him. And, he is, in his own weird Ultra Lord specific way, he is really sweet towards her. He is. He performs like some, I don't remember, some dance.
It's like courtship ritual.
Yes.
Yeah, he's very intense.
From one of the Ultra Lord episodes.
When he takes her out on a date, he takes her, like, to his porch, right?
Yeah.
And or maybe her porch, but he's decorated it with action figures, and he goes, I was gonna go for more of an Art Deco feel, but then I said, no, action figures! Which is one of the funniest lines of Jimmy Neutron that I've heard. That's hysterical.
Yeah, he's killing it in this episode. I know we have our mixed feelings about him, but I think he does a good job. He's very much in character, but he's not overly obnoxious. He also gives Libby his first ever action figure, and I don't remember how it got melted, but it did. He calls him Melty Face, and I just thought that was... Because that means a lot to Sheen, right? We know his character well enough to know that that's a sort of a precious item for him, and it is really sweet to see him give it to her, and, yeah. But beyond all that, they all agree to go on these, well, I guess two of the three agree to go on these dates. And...
Yes.
Jimmy's is interesting. I don't know how else to put it.
Oh, jeez. Well, it's so funny. I was just thinking that Sheen is the most mature of the three of them in this episode. Like, sure, he's really into this Ultralord thing, and that's sort of immature, but he is the most kind of centered on her. He's so not shy, but not in a pushy way like Carl.
Yeah, and I think the thing, too, is that Libby is at least somewhat receptive to it, and also when she's like, this is a little much for me, let's maybe cool it down, let's try to work on our friendship first, he accepts it, he actually does take that very well.
He does. He does. And he's not like Jekyll and Hyde like Jimmy, who's like, I love her, but I hate her, but I love her, but I hate her. And he can't figure it out. It's that classic Jimmy thing where he's so smart and he's like, something is off here and I can't put my finger on it. And then finally he realizes, once he confesses to Cindy and asks her to be his Valentine, that the love potion indeed shattered. And it's because Cindy accidentally bumps into a lever that reveals it to him.
Yeah, and it's like right as they're about to kiss, of course, it's the whole dramatic moment. You're like, oh my god, it's gonna happen, and you know, it doesn't. As these things happen. But you know, it's that whole thing. It's kind of like their whole deal, right? That they never really happen. And I feel like we have a few episodes where this sort of close call situation goes down. So
right.
it's not...
Yeah, it's... Because they can't just become a couple. It's not that kind
no,
of show.
And I think it would be uninteresting. Maybe not uninteresting, but it's just not the way that it's meant to go down. So...
Yeah, it would be very jarring. And that's why, like, I think with Arna and Helgold...
Wow.
Arna and Helgold?
That was something.
We'll let that complete foot and mouth be a Jungle Movie spoiler warning for you, because if you haven't seen it, skip ahead about 30 seconds. That we don't really get Arnold Helga full confirmation until the Jungle Movie, and that's kind of because they don't have to go anywhere now. It's like we get that closure of knowing that something kind of happens there, but we don't really know what or how.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've got going down here, and it's you know, I think it's reasonable. I don't think you really want it to be anything more over the top than that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much from there it gets resolved, right? Well, I guess we do have to talk about the brain blast, where Jimmy realizes that Gouda Feta cheese from Carl's monthly cheese subscription, because of course, is the answer to all their problems.
And it's a callback to the beginning of the episode, which it was such a specific line, you just know it's going to come back somehow. It's that Jimmy Neutron formula.
Which I do like it.
So that was kind of predictable, but it's fun. It's creative. That, of course, it was smell related, so you'd need a really smelly cheese to block out the...
Yeah, but I do like... after they kind of cancel it all out, and they're making the whole school smell bad, whatever, we do see that Libby has kept hold onto their onto the old the action figure, and I think it's really sweet. Yeah,
that was sweet. A few other key points we would be remiss not to discuss is Carl bringing a monkey and dressing up in a disguise to hang out with Judy, and she legitimately doesn't recognize him until he loses the mustache, which is awesome. He basically has Hugh has to chase the monkey around. It's great. The whole thing is great. And he gives Judy a Valentine, and she's like, oh, this is sweet, Carl. It's like the substitute teacher episode of Hey Arnold, where she's like, here's the deal. And he pulls out this Valentine, gives it to her. She opens it up, and he's in this, like, seductive, shirtless pose, and it's really weird.
Yeah, it's actually very uncomfortable, to be honest with you.
And he sprayed it with his dad's cologne, so he says, but that cologne is called Bunyan Be Gone, so it's like a foot spray.
It's... Yikes.
So funny, but so weird. Yeah. But you gotta love Hugh and Judy. That's the takeaway from that arc, is they're such a strong couple, even if they don't always seem like it. They really get each other.
They do, and truthfully, like, they're not even... I feel like part of it is that Hugh is sort of just not really noticing what Carl's getting at in this whole thing, but I think part of it is that he feels really comfortable with their relationship, right? Like, it wouldn't occur to him to feel threatened by anybody else. And, like, yes, it's however old Carl is, but
it's a child,
but still, you know what I mean?
But,
like, I feel like it's just like...
No, yeah, some dads would get really weird about that,
and he's just kind of like, alrighty, well, sounds good.
Yeah, whatever, you figure this out, yeah. And the other thing we need to mention is the Cindy song.
Oh my god,
diner.
I don't know how I forgot that one. Well, we all know how I feel about songs in general, which is to say not great.
In Nicktoons specifically, we should
Yes,
say.
yes, that was a little bit too much of a blanket statement there. Nicktoon songs.
Ashley hates all music.
Nicktoon songs are not my favorite, and this is not my favorite Nicktoon song. I don't.
Oh, I think it's great.
I don't hate
disagree.
it anywhere near as much as I hate School's Out the Musical. So.
It's No Now That We're Men.
Oh, it's no that one's a jam. But it is what it is. I think it's still cute, honestly.
It's
I think it
cute.
does a good job.
We have, it's like this fun reversal of Summer Lovin' where like she's the weird aggressive one, and then the candy shop guy has this like verse in it that was really fun. It's got the 50s feel, it's in the diner, it's all Cindy's friends. She's hilarious in it. I liked it a lot. When it started, I was like, oh boy, here we go. But I was sold.
Yeah,
by
it was
the
actually,
end.
it was okay. And, I mean, that's about as good as you're going to get from me on these. Well,
she pins down Jimmy later and goes, hey, Dweebtron, so you like me, huh?
Yes.
Which, like, could have been straight out of Helga's mouth.
I do appreciate just the way that she operates, honestly. I think, maybe she's a little aggressive, but she knows what she's getting at, and she goes for it, and props to her.
Cindy's a great character. Should she be in the Nick Madness bracket?
We can...
Maybe not. I don't think... Maybe not.
I do think that she's a solid character, though, that we definitely don't give enough cred to. She's... Like I said, she knows what she wants. She's not afraid to just be like, you like me? All right, well, let's see how we deal with this. So, overall...
Yeah. And her mom is the worst, so the fact that she's been as normal as she is to her credit.
I don't think we ever see her dad, do we?
I don't remember, but I don't think so. Or maybe if they do, he has a mustache. But I might be picturing somebody else.
All that being said, I had a lot of fun with this one. I thought it was just a nice, easy watch. It's a fun little take on the love potion thing, a fun little take on the Valentine's Day situation. And, we've got 3 interesting sort of couples going on here. But I think it also does a good job of sort of the multi-plot thing that I think a lot of times goes wrong. It's kind of easy with a Nicktoon.
Yeah, usually there's one dud, but these were all interesting.
Yeah, like I was actually like... They were all different enough from each other, right? We've got sort of the Sheen and Libby thing where things are actually blossoming a little. Again, the Jimmy back and forth situation, and then this whole misunderstanding situation with
oh my god,
with Carl. So I think it's a fun,
so funny,
a fun sort of 3 very different love stories going down here. I think that's all I've got.
Well, dare I say, this is probably my favorite episode of Jimmy Neutron we've covered on the show out of the 13 we've done now. So that's a testament to the episode. Last moment that's been on my mind is when Sheen and Libby almost die because he's blindfolded her and they're walking across the street and a car just misses them.
It's so Sheen. It really is. He's so oblivious.
Yeah, but he's smooth enough to recover from it, just smooth enough. Great episode. I think after Nick Madness, we should give Jimmy Neutron more of a chance. With the new show format, of course, we can't get to everything as frequently as we used to, but this one should be in our rotation.
Agreed.
All right, well, when we come back, we will have our conclusion with our Twitter poll, a preview for next week, a Nick Madness announcement, and our sign-off. Alright guys, here's our Twitter poll for this week. Which couple from this episode stands the best chance once the potions wear off? Is it Jimmy and Cindy? Is it Carl and Judy? Or is it Sheen and Libby? And I have a feeling you guys might say Carl and Judy, and I might vote for it too, just for the joke answer, but my true answer would be Sheen Libby, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, I'm interested to see, I don't know how much people really get into all these different couples. I mean, Jimmy Cindy I think is a easy answer just because it's probably the one that has the most attention throughout the show, but I'm interested to see where this one goes. If we go for the jokes, we go for the memes, guys, or are we going for the reality?
Well, it's funny because 2 weeks ago I said that there aren't enough Angry Beavers memes, and now with Jimmy Neutron there are decidedly too many memes, so we've swung the other way.
We're going all memes all day, guys.
Okay.
All right. So next week, we are getting back to another show we haven't done in a good while. We're doing a Wild Thornberrys episode entitled Nigel Knows Best, and that will be our last episode before Nick Madness, which, if you aren't pumped, you should be. If you weren't here last year, you're in for a real exciting treat. Wanna tell them more about it, Casey?
Oh, yeah. So we'll do this one more Wild Thornberrys episode, but then we are not going to discuss another Nicktoon episode for about a month. And that is because it is Nick Madness time already. Crazy. So with this episode, we are releasing our prediction brackets. So how this will work is I'm going to post out a link on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, everywhere we can. What you'll do is it'll take you to a website where you can fill out the bracket of 64 Nicktoon characters that Ashli and I have handpicked. So if you have any issues about your favorite character being left out, we just kind of picked. It was a pretty rigorous process, but someone will feel like we left out a great character. It's just gonna happen. But we picked our 64. They are seeded 1 through 16 in 4 conferences, just like the real NCAA tournament. So what you'll do is you'll fill out your prediction bracket. Again, that's what you think is going to happen, not your votes. You will be voting via Twitter poll over the course of March. Then you'll screenshot the bracket and tweet it at us. That's all you have to do. We're going to track how correct you are throughout the month of March, and we'll give a prize to the person who has the closest bracket to what actually happens. And I gotta say, last year with shows, it was a lot easier to predict than characters. This is going to be very unpredictable, I think.
Yeah,
That's my prediction.
And I'm going to reemphasize this again. Brackets that you fill out here are who you think will win, not necessarily which ones you like better. I know it gets a little confusing, but the votes are for your favorite when the actual polls come out, but otherwise we want to know, what do you think's going to happen, which for me in many cases is different. But yeah, with this many characters and just so many from different shows and completely different personalities, we've got some wild matchups. It's gonna be some interesting analysis on our ends.
It'll be awesome, and we've got an extra episode this year for Nick Madness. We'll do a preliminary episode, which we did not do last year, so that'll be fun to talk about all 64 and what we think is going to happen.
Yeah, and probably talk about our most unsure matches. Get into the dirt of it, guys. It's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so again, you'll find those up on probably all of our social media. We'll try and get them out there for you. Probably link it in the YouTube video as well, I'd imagine. But as I'm on about that, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Find us on all those young social media sites, and be sure to, keep in touch. And that's how you'll be able to find out who's winning all of these crazy polls. Those will all be on Twitter, so make sure you're keeping up with us there to see the action as it rolls out.
Yep, and tweet us those screenshots anytime before. We'll be accepting until polls open, which will be in early March. So you'll have about a week and a half to get those in. But get them in as early as you want. It's more fun that way when we have more data earlier. So super pumped about this, guys. We got one more episode of Wild Thornberrys next week, and then we are in to Nick Madness. It is finally here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Send in those prediction brackets, and we'll see you next time.